Welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast with author Sarah F. Hathaway and co-host Chen Gibson, blending survival, fiction, and fact to bring you entertaining education that will help you dream, survive, and thrive. And now, here's your host, Sarah F. Hathaway and Chen Gibson.
Chapter 24. "Come on, Chappie, pick up your feet," Monroe teased as they walked down the dusty street. "What's the hurry, Monroe? We've been cooped up inventorying supplies for days. Take a moment to enjoy the scenery." Chappie looked about. "The sooner we get there, the more time we'll have to wander around while Mr. Serious takes care of his business," Monroe countered. "I'm not Mr. Serious. I haven't been this relaxed in years," Cole countered. "Sir, all we've been doing is cleaning rifles and counting jars. You call that relaxing?" Chappie interjected. "That's exactly what I call relaxing," Cole said with a wide smile. "No wonder you never got married," Monroe commented, searching the crowd as they approached the town. The street and town bustled with activity. Children ran, laughing at one another while dogs bounced around them barking. Clouds dotting the sky cast their shade in intermittent spurts over the people below. "This looks peachy," Monroe said with a chuckle. "Oh, I see what you did there. Peach Springs. It looks peachy," Chappie responded, punching him in the arm. "You like that?" Monroe asked, sidestepping quickly to block Chappie's jab. Cole shot them a condescending look for goofing around as they entered the main throng of people. "This town is a perfect balance of unskilled guards and flea market stands," Chappie mentioned, looking at the goods the people were peddling. Cole approved of the town's activities, correcting Chappie. "At least they're still selling. The key to surviving is going to be about the community." Looking longingly at the tomato stand, Monroe commented, "I think my key to survival is getting to know more about Ginger." Following his line of sight, Chappie shook his head at his friend. "You said the pretty ones were too high maintenance," he whispered, leaning towards Monroe. "For you, not for me," Monroe corrected, putting Chappie in a headlock. Laughing at Monroe's comeback, Cole told the men, "Stay alert, boys." The two men straightened up, taking their usual positions behind Cole to watch his back. Chappie perked up, watching a man approach. He was a square-looking man with red hair that continued the blocky look. Cole signaled to Chappie that it was okay for the man to approach. "Virgis, Ginger told me you were back in town," the man declared in a pitchy voice. "She said she would," Cole replied unemotionally. He continued walking down the street towards the bank and hardware store at the end. "I was hoping you'd do more than volunteer for guard duty," the man replied. "Al, I came home to stay out of this mess," Cole answered, stopping for a minute to look at him. Al McKay looked at him sideways. "Is that even possible?" "I'm going to give it a shot," Cole affirmed. "We really need people to help with training," Al explained. "We have good people willing to help, but no one except me to train them." "I told you I'd help protect the community, but—" Al cut him off. "But you don't want to be involved. Training helps to protect the community. You have more knowledge than any of us," Al pleaded. "Let me think about it. In the meantime, maybe one of my buddies, Tim Monroe or Bill Chappie, would like to help," Cole replied, volunteering the men. Monroe smiled at the suggestion, stepping up. He knew if he helped guard the town, he would get to spend more time here, which meant more time with Ginger. "I'm more than willing to help out. Basic training just happens to be my specialty." Chappie smiled at his friend's eager reply. "I'm good wherever you need me," he agreed. "Where's Barry hanging out these days?" Cole wondered. "In the office of his store." "Well, it's more of a workshop now," Al told him. "I'm headed over to the hardware store. I'll catch up with you after I meet up with Barry," he told his men, knowing they wanted to explore. "Yes, sir," Monroe told him, staying to talk about the setup with Al. Chappie was instinctually scanning the area Cole was headed to as he replied, "You know where to find us." Cole watched the soft sand float through the air as his boots disrupted the piles that accumulated like snowdrifts in the street. The creak of the wooden stairs was followed by the squeal of the dry wooden door. As Cole opened it, a bell sounded, and Cole's ears were filled with the bang of hammers sounding in the background. Watching a large black man with a slight limp approach, Cole smiled. "Hi, Barry. Is that Cole Virgis? I was wondering when you were going to stop by," Barry's deep voice rumbled. His smile reached ear to ear, and he chuckled a little as his enormous hand gripped Cole's. "You sent out Ginger awful quick," Cole commented slyly as they walked back to Barry's office. Barry chuckled again, grinning with admission. "We kept an eye on your house, hoping you would be back." "We could really use you," Barry explained, motioning towards a seat. As he poured a drink for Cole, he continued. "Al would give you his spot leading the town's defensive forces." Cole took the glass as Barry offered it. Swirling the contents around, he replied, "Barry, I'm all mixed up right now." He drank the glass's contents and looked up into Barry's deep brown eyes. "I have a couple of men with me. They're going to help with training." He put the cup back down on the table. Barry leaned back in his chair, drinking the contents from his glass and reflecting on Cole's emotional state. He sat forward, wondering, is it that bad out there? Without hesitation, Cole confirmed it is. Barry filled Cole's glass again. As Cole took it back off the table, he explained, "The refugees are being forced into FEMA camps and used as labor. The Executive National Disaster Orders Colonel Henderson issued gave the FEMA board control of everything. With the government leadership dead, it was the quickest way to restore a system." As he explained, Cole's eyes wandered far away. "I heard that, but I don't really think about it. We've had our hands full here," Barry explained, wondering about the things Cole had seen out there. Cole drank the cup's contents again, marveling at the smoothness of the alcohol it contained. "Did Ginger tell you what's going to happen here?" Nodding, Barry asked. "They're going to cut us off?" "Have you seen a truck lately?" "They've already cut you off," Cole confirmed. Barry took a deep breath, wondering how his tiny community would survive. "They'll be shipping to Las Vegas. We could intercept them." Cole shook his head. "The soldiers will round us up if we do that." "What are you suggesting we do, Virgis?" "Self-sufficiency. We have to take stock of all the supplies and ration out the resources. The only way we survive is by relying on one another," Cole told him. "That's why we need you. You've been trained to handle situations like this." Cole shook his head, replying, "No, that's why you need me. But the community knows you. They're already looking to you for direction." "Either way, I'm glad to have you on our side," Barry said, watching Cole stand up. "I better make sure Monroe and Chappie haven't gotten themselves into too much trouble. I'll send my boys out to help, Al. I can have Ginger take charge of the supply inventory. She pretty much has it organized already anyhow." The men walked towards the door. "Take care, Barry," Cole told him with a firm handshake. "We'll be seeing you, Virgis," Barry replied, smiling widely as the man left. Hello and welcome back to the Changing Earth podcast. This is episode number 421, season 15, episode 24. Hey, Chin, what's up?
Hey, chin's up, y'all.
Man, happy to have you here today, but you're just not the star of the show today. Today we have Butch on the show from Hope for Survival, and I'm just so excited to pick your brain today. Butch, thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll just jump right into it, because there's a lot I want to discuss with you today.
Hey, Miss Sarah, Mr. Chen, thank you all for the invite. Good to be back with you again. Thanks for the opportunity. And I'm Butch from Hope for Survival. And we are a group who primarily focuses on the key elements of preparedness and building individual, family, and community self-reliance. That's kind of where our main focus is at, and teaching skills to help oftentimes folks who are forgotten. You know, the retired class and the folks across the street and the folks next door, and just helping them get prepared, learning how to prepare building self-confidence, and a self-reliant insurance policy.
Love that. It's like that is the backbone of our country, which, we need to not forget.
Great network of people in Hope for Survival. They're awesome people.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. They are they're unique. They are that indeed, ladies and men as well. They're special folks, and they the thing we're coming up on 5 years as since I started Hope for Survival, and the bonding that's occurred over this period, and just the stories that they tell me of on any given weekend, one loading up in a car and driving a couple cities over and helping another Hope for Survival family maybe put up a fence or build a new deck, or help them maybe with their secondary water or communications and so forth. It's awesome, and that's what it's about.
That is so cool, for sure.
Yeah, you've allowed me to join in the group, and you could see it. It's not just a digital environment. You guys actually get together and help each other out. It's a pretty special group.
Yeah, we do try to do. We typically in a normal year we have tried to do at least 2 in-person rallies per year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And oftentimes, if I'm going to be in Kentucky or Alabama or North Carolina, wherever South Carolina, I take time out to go do dinner with the folks who are with Hope for Survival in that area.
I was gonna say, you're going for the food, because I always see the comments.
Yeah.
I'm all about the biscuits and gravy, man.
So I want to give you an extra thank you as well, not only for all the work that you do with Hope for Survival, but you're also Commander Gray in the Changing Earth audio drama. And I just have to say thank you for doing that. I know it's, gosh, for everything that you do, and to take time to do that, I feel really, really honored. And honestly, his character is kind of an intellectual guy. And I needed somebody, that could really, really pull off who knew what I was talking about when I was writing his script. So, appreciate all the work you do there. And if you guys recognize his voice, that's probably why.
Well, thank you. But, as I've told you in the email traffic, we're all in this together. Whatever what we all can do, all of us who are out there trying to better the mindset, teach or share or just help people, and we're all across the United States in different areas on different platforms, but the more we can help now, hopefully whenever there's any kind of a disaster or any kind of event, we can feel some level of comfort because we've helped people.
Amen. That's what it's all about. Everybody's like, aren't you worried that people know you're like this preparedness person? Aren't you worried about that? And no, it's always been about the more people I can help, then we have prepared people, then we have prepared communities, then we don't have chaos when things happen. We know how to pivot and go to plan B.
Yeah, that's it.
So
Absolutely.
I've been, my husband was like, hey, I was watching your video the other day. I know his voice. I was like, well, he plays Commander Gray, but so we're watching some of the videos that you've been doing lately, and some big warning flags in my book as far as the difference between this conflict and prior stuff that we might have set back and be like, oh yeah, we're going back to the Middle East again, And so I just wanted to walk through before we get into what we can do personally and for our community, but like some of your biggest concerns, because you're pulling from a background. You can talk a little bit to your background in terrorism and whatnot, but you're pulling from a whole different background than many of us have the relevance to pull from. So I just wanted to pick your brain on like, what are your 3 biggest concerns right now that we should really, really be attentive to?
Well, of course, anytime we as a nation send our military forward, I have concerns. Having worn the uniform for 20 years and now being a bit older and seeing the world a little bit different than when I was in uniform. You know, they're volunteers and they're doing what they were trained to do, and God bless them.
Mm-hmm.
But you still worry about them, and you question if it's the right conflict that they're going into. But I personally, I see this conflict between with Israel and in the Middle East. I see it a little bit differently in that in any kind of event, I always look at cause and effect. What is the cause and how's it going to affect me and my community?
Right.
Right. I look at global, national, and local events, right? And I see the event there, and knowing all the shortages that our military has right now, and if they're in a prolonged conflict, how is that going to impact the home front? And will our government start drawing resources that's then going to impact us nationally and impact our local level? The first one, of course, is oil, and we have to have fuel. We all need fuel, affordable fuel, but more so for the trucks to keep rolling, you know, and we use a just-in-time supply system.
Right. Yes.
Of supplying our gas and our stores and pharmaceuticals for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the diesel hits $7 and $8 and the trucks can't move, we may have big problems in the cities, but the smaller rural areas are not going to see these trucks moving in to bring supplies. And the second part of that is, you know, the FBI came out. They came out one day and said they didn't see any credible threat, and they came out the next day warning us that there's terror cells all around America. If the conflict in the Middle East escalates and goes more violent, which is what war is about. But if those terror cells start popping up around the United States, now we're going to have another problem, okay? And part of my concern with that is I personally believe over the years that most Americans, that they've grown soft.
Mm-hmm.
And they see things on TV, and it's over there. It's not here. But when it comes here, in most cases, using 911 as an example, everyone was glued to the TV, and they were waiting on our government to come out and tell them, here's what it is, and here's why we're going to handle it. And for those who are going to do that again, I think they're going to be sadly disappointed that there's not necessarily a plan to deal with it. So in these smaller communities, we'll say, let's say 50,000 populace and less, we'll just use that as a number. If you got terror cells popping up around America, committing acts of violence against people, those small communities that have 3 days supply in their grocery store, when you have citizens fleeing these cities, your 3 day supply has basically gone down to a couple hours, because you're going to have locals binge buying, and you're going to have the people fleeing cities buying up what's left. And this is why it's so important that we continue to tell people, you need to prepare for every kind of event, whether it's an ice storm, any kind of natural event or man-made event, because things can escalate in a matter of an hour. And you do not want to go out like at the beginning of when COVID happened. You do not want to go out and be competing with 90% of the population for a 6-pack of toilet paper.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, being prepared now for the best that you can. And it's hard for a lot of people. You've got storage issues, you've got income issues. There's a whole laundry list, right?
With inflation, the way it's hit right now, that's why I was just talking to Dave about that the other day, is like, what kind of basics should we be focused on at this point that's really going to produce so much bang for the buck? So I'm going to kind of ask you the same question, like on a personal level, what should we absolutely have in place right now? And if it's not in place right now, get it in line before it's ASAP.
Well, I think everyone should have their list of needs and then list of wants.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to survive? And I'm suggesting to people at a very, very minimum 6 months. And if you can take it out to a year, I would even go to a year. I mean, think about it. A year ago, we were already enduring the increased prices in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And because we started preparing years ago, we've been able to offset a lot of these higher prices by shopping in our own home store. That's what my wife calls it.
That's true.
Right. So we're not paying these outlandish prices that the grocery stores are asking for things. We buy our meat from local farmers, and we go about it. We try to go about it that way, and also encourage other people to go that route. And if you do have to go buy from family-owned businesses. Try to do everything you can to help the local farmers, the local stores, the local, the vegetable stands and things like that. But we being Hope for Survival, a couple years ago, we created a 32-page checklist. And in that checklist, we have it broken into areas of food, fuels, heat, finances, gardening. And then we have one area on there that is, if you wake up tomorrow and everything's crashing, it's a list of suggestions of everything you should consider looking at if you only have that day to go buy, if you have the finances to do it. Like extra tires, extra fuel.
Oh, yep.
Right. Batteries. All size batteries, car batteries, gardening tools that don't require any kind of power or fuel. And there's a whole laundry list of those things. What makes your house function 24 hours a day? Right? Seeds.
Yep.
2 years supply of seeds, because even if you garden and you have gardened in the past, you need to make sure you have a 2-year supply in case you have drought, you have floods, bad seeds. You do not want to go into spring, depending on your seeds, and have a bad year and be out of food.
Absolutely. Okay. So definitely gonna can I link them over to that 32-page checklist?
I have to email it to you.
Okay.
But I will send it to, I don't know if Chen has it or not, but
I've looked at it. I haven't.
Yeah, I don't have it posted out anywhere, but I can email everyone in our Zoom group and Signal group. They have these checklists, and in one of actually about 3 of our Zoom sessions, we have 8 or 10 nurses, retired nurses. And we specifically just focused on things to buy for home, for remedies that don't require prescriptions.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So that was a really good list of value. Breaking down beans and what type beans, recipes, things like that. Because there's so many people in our country that if it's not in a box with instructions and you use a microwave,
yeah,
they're gonna starve.
I know. And forget we just drink any water.
Yeah, how to clean water. And that's why, it's like looking at your community. You can't pick who's your neighbor.
Oh.
And you can't have a neighborhood packed full of people who would be your druther for your community team.
Right.
So you work with what you got, right? And you may have individuals who have debilitations, but they have skills mentally, right? You need to find a way to put all these resources together.
That's funny. I was talking to my mom about that today because she was like, well, I can't pick up that gun and go. And I'm like, Mom, you wouldn't have to pick up a gun. There's so many other things that are of relevance that she has the greenest thumb of us all, and to be able to do all the sewing, she knows, she used to be an upholsterer. And so there's just so many, a vast, pantheon of other skills that she brings to the table. Let somebody else pick the gun up and go walk around, you don't even have to worry about that. So, so I really believe that everybody has their value. And I mean, even if it's somebody who's, I'm sorry, but maybe not like the sharpest, stone in the pile, you still need people to do the labor items that are going to require heavy lifting and all those things. I mean, so.
Yeah, making schedules.
Right.
Determining what post the person, they may be on security duty, or they may be working the garden, or they may be hunting, or they may be fishing, or they may be in the communication tent. But for a leader to be able to go to that schedule or to that person, it kind of like one-stop shopping,
right?
So I think I had it in my first book, I believe, but these documents are really, really important. Like if you do, say, 12-hour shifts for security or communications or whatever, is that you have this stuff in writing. I'm a firm believer, no matter if you're rural, suburban, or urban, you have to do a risk assessment. You got to determine what your threats are. How can you plan if you don't know where you're threatened? And as part of your vulnerability assessment, to that, but you've got to have written plans. You may have it all in your head, but if you go down sick for a week or you die, who's going to take over if everything's in your head?
Absolutely.
Also, try to do it while we have the internet is such a wonderful resource to collect data.
Oh yeah.
Holy smokes. If you were doing it without the internet, trying to do it by, talking to people and observing, situations, it'd be so much harder.
Yeah. And that's, we have a lot of different forms, all the way down to samples of your mutual aid agreement and your memorandums of agreement, memorandums of understanding between teams. Because one of the things we've been trying to do is, say we have a community team here in my town, is I do this thing called your 5-mile radius. And the goal is to build security in depth. And, we got folks down in Black Mountain, Asheville, Fletcher, Waynesville, Franklin, across to Calhoun, Georgia, down in Atlanta, across to Huntsville, Alabama, up to Chattanooga, up into the Cumberland Plateau, Kentucky. Anyway, and the whole point here is to be able to communicate and get information as it flows, but also set up agreements. If I'm 15 miles from another team and they have a doctor and say I don't, if I can make a deal with them that if we have someone in their community pregnant or they're injured or they're whatever, that we can trade for 8 hours of service from that doctor, that we will give them labor to do their gardens, or we'll give them labor for security. Just, it's a mutual trade-off. But if you don't know your people and you don't know what skills they have, it's very hard to pre-plan these things. And one of the things that we've been working on is taking the 5-mile radius and breaking it into quadrants. So let's say you lived in city X. We put that center of that X right on top of where you are, and then we draw basically a straight line going north and south and one going east and west. And you have 4 quadrants. And in those 4 quadrants, we build our PACE plans for communication. And they have leaders. And then at a predetermined time, you bring the leaders from those quadrants into the center area and you work together as 4 teams for direction, mutual agreement, find out who you've added, what skills you've added, and so forth. Doing route surveys, knowing what routes to transit, primary, secondary. So if in time, if you have to go to where you have markets for folks to say barter and trade, you already have the routes pre-planned, and that will help you set up what kind of security are you going to need for those market areas. Because I just taught a class on this last weekend, talking about everything that you do, you need a risk assessment. You don't want to assume that your market's secure, right? And you're bringing people from all over to your market. And if you have a bad event occur there, they're in your market because they're not going to come back.
Yep.
So there's a lot of detail to it.
That is epic. That is epic. Yeah, you're well into the setup of once the event goes down.
Yeah.
So let me back it up just a little.
Yeah.
So we're Johnny Joe homemaker right now, and we're sitting at home going, how do I get like people involved? How do I make a group in my area? How do I start meeting these people? How do I even begin that? What would be your advice for them?
Funny you should ask, because actually a couple hours before our get together tonight, I just taught a class virtually on finding new people and vetting.
Perfect timing.
Earlier today. So there's a lot of it depends on whether you're urban, suburban, or rural. It depends on your personality. Are you subdued? Are you abrasive? If you're not comfortable, maybe find a like-minded person in your home or with you they may be the one that you give the information to and let them do the communicating. But, you can meet new people at neighborhood cookouts, burger barns, community gardens, barber shop, church, ham radio club, city landfill. There's a whole list of different places, the local gun shops, the firing range, places where you're likely to find people who are doing skills. They may not necessarily be into preparedness, but they may be doing the skills that you need in preparedness, fixing things, gardening, right? Communications, security, medicinal, classes, right, in your area, first aid, things like that.
Yeah.
Great places to start. You don't have to approach it as, hey, I'm a prepper or I'm into preparedness and I'm building this great team, and you don't have to share any of that with them. You can start a conversation on gardening or on another one of those topics and work your way into it from there. And I think every person or situation is different. If I'm talking to a 40-year-old female versus a 70-year-old Paul Bunyan kind of guy, I'm going to approach it differently. The big thing is you can't be timid. You can't approach it as if, yep, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get shot down again. You've got to be confident, and you've got to believe in what it is you're trying to sell to someone else.
I love that. I'm like taking vast notes right now. Just because. What?
I said the show host.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's why I was so excited to have Butch because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get to pick his brain tonight. So, yeah, because it's just a challenge. I've tried doing like a Facebook meetup group. Everybody didn't really jive too well. Way too many chiefs, and not enough people that were just willing to kind of sit back. Of course, myself included in that. And I would, but you have to have that respect factor among people. And so a lot of times, because in the preparedness community, people have kind of been that lone assailant, or not assailant, but that lone, a wolf, basically, for so long, of like where they're protecting their stuff and not sharing it and not talking about it. And so it's hard to get them to open up and be like, it's okay. That's one of the reasons why I love prepper camp, is because, it's that closed environment where people feel comfortable talking to you about it, instead of being like, I need help with this or that. They won't even do that. It's just really closed up. And I have been to like a bunch of churches around here, and none are just like tickling my fancy as far as really getting involved with the community there. And so it's just a challenge to find. I got great neighbors on one side, but the other side, like, I don't know. These people, they could be vampires. I'm seriously like they only go out at night to even get their mail. So they're kind of, I'm like, I don't know what they would do if it was a collapse scenario. I don't know these people, So it's, I believe in the community mission, and I really wish I could be more involved in bringing that type of attitude to our area. The great thing is that most Texans, like when stuff goes down, people get together and do stuff. Much different than like California was like when stuff went down, people were like, "Wah!"
Yeah, and you want to try to do everything you can now to avoid that.
Yes.
When it happens, right?
And they're just like, I don't know, some areas are different than other areas. And of course, everybody's a unique person. But I'm just saying, on the whole, most people are more like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Where is our rescue in California? And then in Texas, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. What are we going to do about it? So overall, I like that. And I thought about getting involved, like maybe with the food bank, something like that as well.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, so how we went about it, and I encourage other people as well. If you're talking about your own community, whether I'm talking about mine or I'm training someone to go in their community, the last thing you want to do is get labeled by a neighbor as you being a nut job.
Right. Yeah.
So I printed out, because I work in emergency management in my day life. And so I'm familiar with all these documents and programs. So we went and we printed out documents off of FEMA and so forth of what FEMA recommends that people have stored in their homes and so forth. And then I had some handouts that were stamped by FEMA as well. So when we went when a co-part went door to door, talking to folks, trying to break the ice, he shared these documents, and we had also already visited with their local sheriff, and he provided us some documents as well. And it's key for anyone that's doing this. or just in general, you need to know who your local sheriff is, because your sheriff is your most powerful person in your county. And elections have consequences, and knowing your sheriff and where they stand politically and where they stand on the Constitution is critical with what could be ahead potentially. So we took these documents, and anyway, we went door to door, and we shared, hey, this is what the federal government's saying that you should have. Have you noticed how things in the country are kind of twisted right now, or they're not going so well, or the high cost of food and so on and so forth? That's how we got the ice starting to thaw home to home. So we didn't go, wearing our body armor and a tinfoil hat,
Right?
low crawl up to the door and say, you need a year's worth of Campbell soup and 50 cases of water.
We're setting up the security network.
Yeah. So, and through this whole process, we have stayed in touch. Our sheriff's been out to our community a few times. We had a mission statement that we let him read before we got started with it, and he blessed it. And so we've just tried to continue this on and building this home by home to equal a community, and then expanding it out and trying to get as many people self-reliant and them start their own teams in their community. Because like I said, the food water portion of it's critical, because those are fewer people who will be beating on your door. But developing that buffer outward, giving you security and depth, is also critical, right?
Yep.
So the further and the thing is, it's like, we're predominantly, Hope for Survival is predominantly in the southeastern United States. But we're also in communication with other groups outside of Hope for Survival, that we have mutual understandings to expand this buffer even further. Is what we're trying to do. Because, Sarah, Chen, we're all in this together.
Amen.
We're all in it together. We want the same outcome, and taking care of so much focus in prepping and preparedness ignores a large portion of our population, and that is the folks across the street and the folks next door who may be retired.
Yep.
They may be widows. They may have handicaps. But it's getting all of them involved, giving them a purpose, learning from them, learning skills from them, because they have skills. It's like asking an 80-year-old nurse, okay, this is how they do it today, but tell me how, before all this equipment was available, how did you used to do it? And those are important skills to learn from these people. You don't have a diagnostic machine to tell you what's wrong with your car engine. Oh, you've got to figure it out by sticking your head under the hood and using tools.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's becoming a lost art. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was talking about in a podcast that I dropped today regarding, one of the concerns I have in the world and in our country is, when you go back to the early 90s, when the U.S. was involved in Somalia, and we started bringing in refugees from the Middle East to the United States for the last 30 plus years, even before, but bringing them in, not counting the ones coming across the border. You've got diverse culture. You've got religion, right? And you're bringing in a different sect of life to a country where most homes are state of the art. And if it's one of the things we have learned over the last 30 years is when there's disasters around the world, we send aid in, food, water, and medicine and so forth. But in the large sums of money, we send in contractors, like countries where they're still using holes in wood to go to the bathroom in a bucket below the floor or in a river going through or whatever. We put in all these new appliances to include toilets, and when they break, they have no one to fix them.
Mm-hmm. Teach a man to fish, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have relocated a lot of that culture to the United States. And I go back in time when I lived in Montana, and I used to drive through Montana and Wyoming. And I remember going by reservations where many of the Indians were relocated from tents into four-walled homes with a roof. And I remember seeing how destroyed the homes were. There would be pigs and chickens running out the front doors. And I'm not knocking them. I'm simply saying we are taking for granted that we're giving them something new and they don't know how to take care of it.
Right.
We're not educating them on that. So now today, with hundreds of thousands of transplanted people of culture outside the United States are now in our country, they're given the same thing that was passed to the Indians, and they don't know how to care for it. Right. And they're not adapting to our lifestyle. And through the many years, you had back in the beginning of America, you had many cultures from countries, and they still had their cultures, but they adapted and they all loved America.
Right. Exactly. They didn't remain a sovereign sect away from the population.
Yeah. And today, many of these cultures are here and they don't love America. Right. And they're trying to change our government.
Are you sure the amount of air conditioners won't change their mind? I mean, it is pretty nice. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And you look what's going on right now. The United States is in the Middle East as the number one ally of Israel. And you've got hundreds of thousands of people in America who are anti-Israeli.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And they're getting elected into state, and they're getting elected at federal level positions. They have sects of their neighborhoods that are in Sharia law, and our law enforcement don't go into those neighborhoods.
Right. Yeah. Who cheered when 9/11 happened.
Yes. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not taking a position. I'm simply saying, as an outsider looking in, this is a problem that is only going to get bigger.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we got to be vigilant. We got to be shoring up and be ready. And by all means too. I mean, if people. So I always like to meet people just as people off the bat, till somebody would give me a reason not to respect them or whatever. And I think the most important thing to remember is to kind of drop our own biases and understand that everybody has something to offer to the group if they're willing to be a part of the group. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So
yeah, I actually witnessed a group several years ago, a great gentleman, but he tried to approach group building with the mindset that he would only allow Christians to be in his group.
Mm-hmm.
And
now Jesus didn't do that.
You're right.
Right.
And I don't think you're going to be able, unless you're going to go build a new home and start your own neighborhood, you're going to run into a big problem with this in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because we have left-leaning, right-leaning, church-going, non-church-going. We have young, we have older. You've got to work with what you have.
Yeah, by having those preconceived conceptions, you might be cutting out a seriously valuable ally just because, you want to be judgmental over somebody and their way of life. And that's, not the best idea either. So especially not, when it, like you said, when it really comes down to it, you don't really have the ability to pick your neighbors. So, you're going to have to deal with what you got. Either way, you're going to have to be in proximity to each other and figure that out.
Yeah. And you can only figure it out by spending time with them.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Unbiased, unprejudiced. And you know what? They may understand a culture better than you do. You may have a preconceived bias towards a culture that is not true.
Right. Yes, sir. All right, Butch. Well, I'm got to get into some Changing Earth news, but I so appreciate having you on the show. I knew you were the man for the job this week, and absolutely just proving me right. So why don't you let everybody know where to find you, where to get on board with Hope for Survival, and then we'll get into some Changing Earth news. We'll let you go.
Yeah. Hey, you can email me at preparedness101@protonmail.com. That's preparedness101@protonmail.com. And in the subject block, just put that you heard Miss Sarah's podcast. And you can go to our website at hopeforsurvival.com, or you can go to YouTube, Hope for Survival on YouTube. And look forward to hopefully you stopping by. And Miss Sarah, Mr. Chen, thank you all so much. It was good to spend time with you.
Always good.
We got to work out a time to get you over on our side.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to, come speak about the, all the self-defense material that I put together, all the anti-kidnapping and anti-sexual violation, all that stuff. We could do a good show for everybody on it. That'd be just fine with me.
Absolutely awesome, and we'll do it. And keep doing what you're doing, please. Just changing minds and changing lives. And till next time, you guys be blessed.
All right, you too, sir. Take care.
All right, take care of yourself.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
All right, which is just such an awesome dude.
And on a personal note, I'm always like sending messages over to him, asking him questions. He's a great guy.
Right. Great resource.
This morning we had back and forth. We were talking about some stuff that I noticed in my area. He's a great guy. Because I know he's so awesome and like such a God-fearing man and everything. And so when I first approached him to do Commander Gray, I was like, you're gonna be okay with doing a bad guy, right? Like, that's okay, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, we could do that. So yeah. No, he's cool. Great job sounding like that character.
I know, right? I know. And I say, I needed somebody who really had the military intelligence to be able to really pull his role off, because he was in the government for so long and everything. So he was a good fit, and he's just getting better and better. Okay, let's roll some weather music, and then I'm going to be like the Micro Machines man today, trying to get us out of here on time. All right, Changing Earth News. Today is October 22nd, 2023. The sun has been quiet. We are looking at a big active region turning in this next week. And the next solar activity uptick is supposed to begin next week into the beginning of November. So that's always fun to go through. We'll have to just hang on to our hats for that one. There's tons of evidence coming out on the natural changes that's going on with our planet and its relationship to these 12,000-year Earth cycles. So hopefully that goes a long way to kind of destroy this climate change myth that they're spoon feeding us, that humans are just, it's all our fault and we're just evil humans. Hopefully it'll do a lot to dispel that, so we can actually be preparing for the changes that are coming and this uptick of severe weather and more climatary things that we're going to have to be dealing with, rather than putting our energy towards something that probably won't make a difference at all. So that's just my personal little rant on that one. Okay, October 16th, 2023, there was 387 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, the biggest of which was a 6.7 in Alaska. It was on the Adrianov Islands, and that's the little string, the Aleutian Islands down there. No tsunamis became of it or anything like that. And then a tornado touched down in Alberta, Canada. It was on Canada Day, killed livestock and did some property damage over there. Southern Zimbabwe, they had a tornado hit that left 200 people homeless on this is a tough one, Bavuma Island. I probably killed that. Anybody from Zimbabwe, I'm sorry. Azraq, Jordan was hit by a massive sandstorm that originated out of southwestern Syria. Literally, you're just looking at orange skies. I mean, if you can even see that far, you just can't even see past a motorcycle length in front of you. So that was a pretty interesting event. There was a 6.0 earthquake off the southern Japanese islands. There was a 3.7 in Ventura County in California, a 4.8 earthquake in Humboldt County, and a 4.0 in Uttarakhand, India. So the western edge of the United States there, Northern California area, they've been getting a lot of quakes this week. Just a series of rumbling going on from Southern California on up. So we got to keep eyes on that. Hopefully it's just releasing some of that pressure. I was telling you there was some big quakes that were happening out in the Ring of Fire, and we want to see some activity. We want to see some movement out of the West Coast when that's happening. Otherwise, it can be locking up. So on the 17th of October, there was 393 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.6 in the Pacific Ocean by New Caledonia. There was also a 5.5 earthquake in southern Iraq. There's a 2.2 earthquake was reported between Roan Mountain and Hampton in Tennessee. I always keep my eyes on those because of the New Madrid fault line out there. And then Karachi, Pakistan was also hit with a big earthquake. On October 18th, 2023, it was pretty quiet. There was 356 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.5 in the South Pacific Ocean. And they had a little wildfire start up in Riverside County, California. On October 19th of 2023, there was 377 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.9 in the Philippines. Ghana has experienced a massive flooding event over there. About 80,000 people have been displaced from that event. They are letting water out of their main reservoir right now in an effort to keep the dams from breaking. So we are seeing this problem with these massive rain events putting pressure on reservoirs and dams that weren't built to handle this kind of rain. And it really makes me think of the Fort Peck Dam up in Montana. And, it's the lead to what goes down into the Mississippi. It really needs to be overhauled. It's about 100 years old now. And so these situations, these are red flags we should be paying attention to instead of worrying about, controlling people because of weather patterns. In Ireland, Storm Babel hit. And it brought up to a foot of rain, causing flooding. This thing is going to go on to hit the UK pretty much all week. They're still experiencing that storm hanging out even today. Cyclone Tej, it's Tej, lined up to hit Mumbai, India. So it was just an eyes on because that one was really, really big. There's a 4.0 in Sacramento County in California. Plus another series of earthquakes that hit Northern California and a 3.5 near Reno, Nevada. The first significant snowfall fell in the Rockies, and Mount Kilauea began rumbling again, so we have eyes on that volcano again. Babel hit Scotland as well, so Scotland got really, really hit by that storm. And in Montana, in Great Falls, they had 65 to 85 mile an hour winds, and the homes were actually getting buried under piles of of tumbleweeds. So that was pretty funny pictures to see. Yeah, it's like all these tumbleweeds, just like they're snowdrifts, but it's tumbleweeds. Minnesota and Minneapolis, St. Paul, they got hit with golf ball size hail. There was significant damage there. On the 20th of October, there was 418 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.8 in the Philippine Sea. There was a 4.9 earthquake in Iran. There was 7 people injured in that event, and then again, the storm over in the UK just hit England hard. Lots of flooding. Suffolk was the worst to experience flooding. 2 people came up dead from that storm on the 20th. And Scotland was just getting these massive coastal waves. So definitely eyes on that situation. Campi Flegrei, the supervolcano over in Naples, Italy, is continuing its convulsions. So we have to keep eyes on that. That is a big concern. About 500,000 people living in the danger zone around that volcano. Not to mention what it could do climate-wise if it erupted. The U.S. conducted its first nuclear test that it's done in a long time on the 20th of October out in Nevada. On the 21st of October, there was 397 earthquakes that were 2.0 or bigger, biggest of which was a 5.1 in the North Pacific Ocean by Mexico. Hillsborough, North Carolina, there was this huge boom that was heard. Did you hear that in North Carolina?
No, I don't think so.
Huge boom on the 21st. It was actually a 2.2 earthquake. That was...
Yeah, I heard it was a mine.
Yeah, it was right by this mine, depth of 3 miles. Yep. So it wasn't actually an explosion or anything. It was just near the mine. It's probably from stress they're putting on the earth. There was a 3.3 earthquake in western Tennessee. There was a 5.1 off the coast of Costa Rica. Babbitt is still raging. The UK death toll went up to 3. Lots of flooding going on. Hurricane Norma hit Mexico. They were experiencing coastal flooding around Baja and Big Sur, Cabo San Lucas. They were all in the danger zone. Hurricane Tammy, so we had 2 hurricanes going on the left side and the right side of the American continents. And so Tammy was on the right side in the Caribbean area. It hit Leeward Islands. And then there was a large wildfire in Summertown, Tennessee, 100 acres, pretty big for Tennessee. Tasmania also experienced this crazy storm during the night, 42,000 lightning strikes with these massive booms coming from the storm. So a big storm going on out there. They have some cyclones that are ramping up over there as well, but look to be like they're going to miss Australia. October 22nd, that is today, folks. There was 355 earthquakes or 2.0 or bigger so far, the biggest of which has been a 5.5 in the Southern Pacific Ocean. There was a 4.3 in Nepal, and that was 2 big earthquakes in less than 24 hours. So we got to keep our eye on Nepal and see what the damage report is out of that, because that was breaking news when I was putting the show together. Storm Babbitt still hitting the UK. Big flooding out there. Norma is just ripping Mexico up right now. That's supposed to come across and actually give more rain to Texas, so we're kind of hoping on that. But hopefully it doesn't do too much damage along the way. Cyclone Tej is intensifying, so they've upgraded it to the super severe cyclone, and it's supposed to make landfall between Yemen and Oman. In Melbourne, Australia, there was a 5.0 earthquake that rattled the city. Property damage has been associated with that event. And Hurricane Tammy is now hitting the Barbuda Island down in the Caribbean. As far as volcanoes go, we have 28 volcanoes actively erupting. South America just absolutely lit up with activities. We're up 2 volcanoes erupting this week. But minor activity was actually downgraded to 10. So last week it was 16. This week it's 10. I've never seen it that low before. I don't know what's going on with just how they're calculating it or what, but it's down 6 this week. And I've just never ever seen that low before, so that's kind of crazy. And then 37 showing unrest. So overall for this week, we are up 2 more volcanoes on the list. And South America was the biggest change in activity that I saw on the map. As far as wildfires in the United States, there are 12 major wildfires burning right now for a total of 280,000 acres. 2 of those fires are contained. California is number 1 on the list with 181,000 acres, coming from 7 fires. None of those are contained. Oregon, second on the list, 56,000 acres, coming from 2 fires. None of those are contained. Louisiana still coming up third on the list, 31,000 acres, coming from 1 fire. It is not contained. And Arizona is number 4 with 11,000 acres, coming from 1 fire, and it is also not contained. So there we go. Change in Earth news, a kind of a quick run through this week. Like I said, eyes on Nepal, and then we're going to have to watch what happens with our solar activity. Episode 7 of the Change in Earth audio drama is up. I've been putting the shows out in 4-block episodes this season. So episode 8 will be the finale of this 4-block episode. It's coming up on Thursday. Great material in there. Just a really cool show. Some very tense moments. And members have access to it right now. The commercial-free version of episode 8 is up for members. The Changing Earth merchandise is now available. So I've got a sweatshirt up there. I got a t-shirt. I got a ball cap. But for all of you all who are at prepper camp and told me that I should have, should have the Knees Not Nuts shirt up there. The Knees Not Nuts shirt is now available. It's got a little picture of 2 people doing engaged in self-defense. So that's kind of a fun shirt. You can pick one of those up. It is up there for sale now. We had a great conversation with Butch before the show. And I think it was very much clean enough and good to go that I'll probably post that up as member bonus content for all of the paid subscribers to the Changed Earth, so that they can get a little behind the scenes action on that one. All right, guys. Well, that's all I got for you. Whew. What a show.
That's a lot.
What a show, man. So much fun. I was just so amped for this all day. And you kept sending me over Butch's videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have more to talk to him about. So, yeah. So, sorry it went a little long today. That's just what you get as the Change in Earth turns, you know. As the Change in Earth turns. These are, I don't know if I can say that actually on the air. That might be copywritten.
Oh my goodness.
Alrighty, guys. Next week we'll be back with episode 25 of Virgis. We're going to have the performer interviews coming up soon. You know, episode 8 we'll post on Thursday, and then we'll be putting that show together pretty soon. So stay tuned. Lots of good stuff going on. And until next time, remember, dream,
survive,
thrive.
Thank you for joining Sarah and Chen for this episode of the Changing Earth podcast. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Day After Disaster, Without Land, The Walls of Freedom, Battle for the South, Dark Days in Denver, and The Endless Night at www.authorSarahFHathaway.com. If you love the Changing Earth series and podcast, become a supporter while you're there.